Order, please. This is the Standing Committee on Natural Resources and Economic Development. So my name is Tom Taggart, and MLA for Colchester North and chair of this committee. Today we will hear from witnesses regarding the impact of Nova Scotia Loyal Program. So before we start, I ask everyone to please check their phones, make sure they're turned off or put them on silent. And in case of an emergency, please use the Granville Street exit and walk up to the Grand Parade. I'll now ask the committee members to introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and constituency, and I'll start on my left here with MLA McQuarrie.
Yeah, Kyle McQuarrie, MLA for Inverness and Vice Chair of the committee.
Danny McGillivray, MLA for Pictou Centre.
David Bowlby, MLA for Annapolis.
Good afternoon, Julie Van Exen, MLA for King South.
Good afternoon, Derek Marbuck, the MLA for Sydney Member 2.
Ian Rankin, Timley Prospect.
Hi, I'm Krista Gallagher. I'm the MLA for Halifax Chebucto.
Hello, Susan LeBlanc, MLA for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, everyone. And so I would also like to note the presence of Legislative Counsel Killian Sleemer and Legislative Committee Clerk Tamer Naseva. Topic today, as we said, is the impact of the Nova Scotia Loyal Program, and I'm going to ask all the witnesses, beginning on my left, Mr. Small, to introduce themselves, and once the introductions are made, we'll go with some opening statements. Okay. Mr. Small.
Good afternoon. Danny Small, Director of Industry Development and Business Growth.
Chris Morrissey, Deputy Minister of Growth and Development.
Melissa Quinn, Project Executive for Nova Scotia Loyal.
Good afternoon, Deputy Minister Joanne Munro for Service Nova Scotia.
Good afternoon, Chris Mitchell, Chief Procurement Officer. We'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you all. So I'm going to ask the Director Small if you'd like to make opening comments, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Nova Scotia Loyal is making it easier for producers to reach more people. Through marketing campaigns, social media, and retail merchandising, boosting visibility and driving sales, these efforts strengthen local supply chains and contribute directly to our provincial GDP. I want to speak briefly from the perspective of our farmers, producers, and agri-food businesses who are working every day to feed Nova Scotians and grow our local economy. For our industry, Nova Scotia Loyal is more than a marketing program. It helps businesses get noticed, connect with customers, and compete in a crowded marketplace, and helping farmers and food businesses meet strong consumer demand. Over 2,000 businesses have joined Nova Scotia Loyal, and over 40% are in the agri-food and beverage sectors. That shows the program can deliver real value for our industry. 94% of Nova Scotians say they are actively looking for local products, and Nova Scotia Loyal helps turn that interest into sales. Access to market is one of the biggest benefits. The program supports more than 11,500 local product listings across the province and helps local products get on shelves, stay visible, and compete with imported goods. Participating retailers have seen local product sales rise as much as 20%, and businesses can also access support for packaging and food safety improvements. We're also seeing new opportunities through institutional procurement and local food processing. Programs like IDEA, the Institutional Development, Expansion, and Advancement Program, are helping farmers, processors, and distribution hubs scale to supply hospitals, universities, and other public institutions, while investments in regional and local food processing are helping businesses add value, expand production, and keep more of the food dollar here in Nova Scotia. From the perspective of farmers and industry, Nova Scotia is helping to build a stronger future in the province. When we choose local, we are backing the people who grow our food, create jobs in our communities, and keep our rural economy strong. That is the real value of Nova Scotia Loyal and the impact it's having on our agriculture industry. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deputy Morrissey, do you have some comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here again alongside my colleagues to discuss the Nova Scotia Loyal Program with support for Nova Scotia businesses and Nova Scotians. This is a very important discussion and one that's incredibly timely. There's no question that the geopolitical climate we are experiencing is creating considerable stress and uncertainty among our business community, our local manufacturers, harvesters, producers, growers, and consumers. That is why now, more than ever, our Nova Scotia Loyal Program is so important. Nova Scotians want to buy and support local. And as a government, we are making it even easier for them to do that. Nova Scotia Loyal brings visibility, shines a light on Nova Scotia products so that consumers make more informed decisions when shopping and supporting local. Nova Scotia Loyal is more than a buy local program. It has really become a movement. Our brand ambassadors, staff, and the Minister and the Premier have been at events promoting local products across the province, and the response has been overwhelming. Recently, we celebrated an incredible milestone with more than 2,000 businesses, producers, harvesters, manufacturers, crafters, and growers who have signed up to the program. And that number continues to increase every single day. These businesses, whether they are small or large, are making a difference, and we are proud to have every single one as a partner in the program. My Department of Growth and Development is very focused on strengthening our economy, growing our GDP, and supporting businesses. Our strategy and the work we are doing are guided by the 6 key priority sectors, or the big 6 as we call them. Those sectors are defense and aerospace, energy and clean tech, natural resources, AI and digital technology, seafood and agri-food, and the housing construction. Our province has made these 6 opportunity sectors a priority for development because these are the places where we already have the assets, the people with expertise, and the credibility. My role as Deputy Minister of Growth and Development is to support a team that is working to enable, align, and scale the efforts in these sectors. As a government, we know we have to do our part. Nova Scotia Loyal plays a pivotal role in our plan to meet our economic goals in these key sectors and far beyond. Over the last several months, we've been very focused on listening to businesses and adjusting our programs to best support them. For 2026-27, our budget is $7.6 million to provide programming incentives like the new Nova Scotia Loyal Producer Labeling Pilot Program, where businesses can apply for a 70% rebate on eligible expenses up to $3,000 for adding the Nova Scotia Loyal logo on their product packaging. Additionally, we announced the new local supplier food safety support pilot program to help food producers meet food safety requirements they need to get more of their products to local and global markets. On top of this, we've expanded our partnership with the Farmers Market of Nova Scotia Cooperative to provide vouchers to all public schools, homeschool, and MK students, as well as post-secondary students and newcomers to the province. Just over a week ago, Minister LeBlanc attended the Farmers Market in Lunenburg, where he was able to personally hand out vouchers to students from Blue Nose Academy. The students were excited to spend their voucher on local products. Last fiscal year, more than 55,000 students from across the province visited our truly exceptional farmers markets. 29% of them, almost 16,000, for the very first time, which resulted in over $787,000 in direct purchases from local businesses. These are just a few examples of how we are working tirelessly to ensure Nova Scotia Loyal is responding to the needs of our businesses, and we are only getting started. This movement is truly an all-hands-on-deck approach, and I'm very pleased to be joined by my colleagues in the Department of Agriculture as well as Service Nova Scotia, who will elaborate on the work we are doing together to support local businesses through the Nova Scotia Loyal program. We are truly Team Nova Scotia when it comes to this work, and with that, I will hand it over to my colleagues.
Thank you. Now ask Deputy Munro if she'd like to make opening comments.
Yes, please. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. The Nova Scotia Loyal program reflects a broader effort across government to ensure our spending delivers the greatest possible benefit here at home. It brings departments together around a shared goal, making sure Nova Scotia businesses are well positioned to succeed, including when they're competing for government work. At Service Nova Scotia, our role is through procurement. Through the Nova Scotia Loyal Working Group, we looked at how procurement could better support local businesses and where we could remove barriers. One of the most important changes was the introduction of a new directive. Implemented in the summer of '24, it allows Nova Scotia businesses to receive a 10% price advantage when competing against out-of-province or international vendors for contracts below the Canada Free Trade Agreement thresholds. It's a practical tool that helps level the playing field and ensures local companies are more competitive. But policy is only one part of the story. We also know that understanding government procurement can be a challenge, especially for businesses new to the process. That's why our team is focused on supplier engagement, providing one-on-one support, hosting outreach sessions, and running initiatives like the reverse trade shows. These efforts are all about making it easier for Nova Scotia businesses to navigate the system and put forward strong bids. And we're already seeing the impact of that approach. In the 25-26 fiscal year, there were $750 million in tenders awarded to Nova Scotia-based businesses, supporting jobs, strengthening local supply chains, and helping businesses grow in communities across the province. Because at the end of the day, this is about more than procurement. It is about investing in our economy, supporting local innovation, and building stronger communities across Nova Scotia. Chris and I will be pleased to answer your questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks very much. So now we're going to move on to the question period. So I'd remind everyone to wait for the name to be called and the red light come on your microphone, just so we can have it queued up with Latest TV. And they'll recognize you. So we'll start the first round of questioning with the NDP Caucus for 20 minutes, followed by the Liberals for 10, and the PCs for 30. So I recognize the MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our witnesses here that are coming today. I understand this is probably a lot of work and a lot of energy, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat about Nova Scotia Loyal. As I'm sure you know, I talk to a lot of small businesses and small producers, and a lot of the folks that I talk to want to know what's coming next for Nova Scotia Loyal. At another committee meeting I attended in the fall, we heard that because of lags with data, with Statistics Canada, the department won't be able to access the financial impact and the total number of jobs that are created through Nova Scotia Loyal program until 2027. Could you tell me how the department is measuring success and making evidence-informed decisions without this information?
I recognize Deputy Minister Morrissey.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. We are continually looking at our program and the program evaluation. Early on with the Nova Scotia Loyal program, it was about brand awareness, and so trying to raise just awareness around the Buy Local program and to get people engaged with it. We have many different measurements, whether it's the number of businesses signed up. From last year, that was under 1,000 to, as of today, or last couple of days, were over 2,048 businesses who are signed up. The number of products, Nova Scotia products that are on shelves, the number of retail markets or retailers that we are into, the number of eyeballs that are seen through our social media or paid advertising campaign. We have over 229,000 and change visits to our website. We almost have 11,600 Instagram followers. Food safety program, number of businesses who have signed up for that particular program is currently standing at 34. Our cost share labeling program, which have 133 businesses signed up for that program. How we evaluate is consistently going back to businesses and ask them what's working and what's not working, and also going back to consumers. A good example of this is the farmers market. When we started out early days, we launched the program. The timing may not have been perfect when we sent out some of the coupons, and they may have got missed in people's backpacks or little personal backpacks going home, the timing of the year. We've learned and built upon that. While we started out with some schools, we now engaged all schools across Nova Scotia. As I mentioned in my open remarks, we've also opened this up to other organizations like ISANS to ensure that new immigrants have an opportunity to do that. It's opened up to post-secondary students in the fall so they can take advantage of this program. So we're not just reaching businesses, we're reaching all Nova Scotians with respect to that program, and we're looking at measurements of validation of those coupons through the food, through the farmers market as an example. There is a lot of data we are collecting and measuring. And again, as we look at some of the different measurements with respect to what we're trying to achieve, do we need to adapt different programs? We tried the book pilot program last year. Very successful. The uptake was very good. A number of authors and local publishers took advantage of that particular piece. So again, we're looking at, are we reaching different markets? Are we looking at different products? Are we looking at different producers? And we're getting feedback, whether it's through industry associations or through some retail information that we we may find out through some of the data that we're collecting through those mechanisms. There is a lot of data that we pour through on a regular basis to ensure that we're meeting or exceeding some targets. This year, we're trying to achieve over 3,000 businesses signed up to this program. We've increased the funding for certain programs, such as our food safety and labeling program, because food safety is a great example where that if your product can be meet the food safety thresholds and requirements for major retailers, not only can you sell your products here in Nova Scotia, you can sell to any province and territory. And that's important, expanding those markets for those small or local businesses and getting on shelves, whether it's in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, or whether that's in London, Ontario, or Fort McMurray, Alberta. Expanding markets and new markets to them is very, very important. So there are lots of different metrics. I will also say that we're also not trying to overburden businesses with respect to constantly trying to get too much data from them, especially small to medium-sized local businesses. There's only so much data we can track from them. Some of them are not as sophisticated as some of the larger big box producers, but we are talking to them either through our brand ambassadors or through Melissa and the work she's doing with some of our contractors to understand better what's hitting the mark for them and what's not. And so there is constant evaluation and quality assurance to check on what can we do, what has been good, and what's not, what can we improve upon. So I feel while the metrics may not be quantifiable through Statistics Canada, which there is a 2-year lag, we can quantify many other different things that are valuable with respect to what we're doing and the impact it's having on either businesses or Nova Scotians. Melissa, do you have anything you want to add?
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. We also conducted a business survey in February of this year. So we had over 600 Nova Scotia Loyal registered businesses who completed that survey. 61% of those businesses indicated that having the Nova Scotia Loyal logo directly on their product packaging has a significant impact to their business. 52% of those are reporting over 6% increase in sales. 25% of those are suggesting they have over 11% increase in sales. Now, I'll put a marker there to say, like, the report that they're giving into us is with their final claim, so that's a very short period of time to speak about those sales. And then 45% of those have entered a new market or at least one new market as a result of participating in the program. So we do have that type of feedback, and then we do have the Consumer Omnibus survey results as well.
I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Actually, my next question was about increased sales, so thank you for answering that very quickly for me. I'm very conscious of time because I have a whole bunch of questions that I want to ask, as I'm sure you're aware. Listen, we understand that the province has a limited amount that it can spend, and decisions were made in the most recent budget based on this. Taste of Nova Scotia grant was reduced by 48% in the province's most recent budget, while at the same time, Nova Scotia Loyal's budget line for promoting local products and events was increased by $750,000. Did the ministers responsible for funding these initiatives meet to compare organizational capacity and program effectiveness before deciding where to cut and where to invest?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
I can speak from our departmental perspective and meeting with our minister. He receives regular reporting on the metrics with respect to what some of the ones that we've outlined and looking at some of the behaviors that we're trying to change, whether it's businesses or with its consumers. And so when we did the evaluation and with the mandate of looking at all budgets to consider what changes could be made to achieve some of the budget requirements, the Loyal program has reduced its budget from $8 million to 7.6. But within that 7.6 envelope, we also looked at where were we spending money in the programs and whether they're being effective or not. We are spending money in certain events, but again, we get a lot of requests to attend events. You can imagine from tip to tip to tip, there are a lot of different requests. In order to achieve some of our goals, we just increased the number of businesses coming in, the food safety program. So the most effective ones, we looked at the programs and where we can have the greatest amount of impact and where do we not need to spend some of those resources. We've reduced our budgets in promotion and advertising. We already know through some of the studies that Melissa has indicated, brand awareness is really, really high. And so we reduce most of the savings found in our marketing and advertising budgets to ensure that we can meet the requirements for Nova Scotia Loyal.
I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. So before the budget was finalized, the Minister of Finance sent around a document asking each department in 20 words or less to assess the risk of possible grant reductions. Director Small, what risks were identified when it came to Taste of Nova Scotia's grant reduction?
I recognize Director Small.
Well, thank you very much for the question. As I'm sure you can appreciate, these were very difficult decisions to look at and to consider. Regarding specific rationale for how, or criteria for how these decisions were made, unfortunately, I'm going to need to take that back to the department and try and find some specific rationale for you. If that's possible, I don't have the information with me today.
I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Just to be, you were asked by the Minister of Finance to write in 20 words or less what the risks were identified when it came. That did happen, though, right?
I recognize Director Small.
Again, unfortunately, I don't have that information with me today.
Recognize MLA Gallagher.
In the interest of time, we shall move on. Like many organizations, Taste of Nova Scotia had prepared their budget for the coming year when they found out that they would have far less money to be working with. What impact will the cuts have on Taste of Nova Scotia work going forward? The bottom line is that the organization wasn't given very much time to plan, and their budgets were already prepared. And explanation on why organizations like Taste of Nova Scotia weren't notified sooner of these drastic budget cuts.
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think everybody would admit that going through a budget process of looking at rationales for how money is spent and allocation of the resources, difficult decisions had to be made. And there's lots of moving parts up until and leading into budget deliberations with departments. Those tough decisions are hard to make when there's things being developed, but I think we're always constantly looking at trying to be most efficient with public expenditures and trying to have the highest impact possible. But I think we also recognize that we can't continue with deficit situations as the size or magnitude that we are currently operating. And so to continue looking at various different budgets and the impacts we're having is an important part of the budget process.
I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Okay. In my chats with small business producers who are a part of the program, I've learned that many are driving their products to each Sobeys or each Walmart. Could you tell me what the percentage of producers in the Nova Scotia Loyal program are getting their products into big box stores by driving them there themselves and stocking the shelves themselves?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
I'll start with distribution, and I'll hand it over to Melissa, who may have some data with specific number of small businesses providing to those retailers and the number of products that are on the shelves. We are not engaged with the distribution of any products. That's a massive undertaking for any one business, let alone trying to do it for thousands of businesses across Nova Scotia. So each company or each business would evaluate their best distribution models and have to make some of those decisions on what's the best way to do it. Obviously, it would make sense for them to do it in the most economical way, but given the number of small businesses that we're dealing with on an ongoing basis and the timely nature of whether it's a food-sensitive product that has required food safety requirements or whether it's an arts product, can they get on the same truck and all that, we have not developed at that particular program. If that's something the businesses wish to discuss, we'd be happy to have that conversation and say, how can we take a look at that? That's a part of the program evaluation and looking at the tools to make small businesses, how can we work with them to be more efficient and effective in trying to drive some of that. But we are very happy the fact that they're getting on these shelves and shelves across the province and across the country, those number of businesses and number of products continue to increase, and that brand awareness and that distribution of getting into those markets has increased sales. We know that's a positive thing for all small to medium-sized businesses.
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. So we do have our merchandising team that travel the province. We visit over 300 independent and commercial retail locations on behalf of over 800 Nova Scotia businesses and 11,500 Nova Scotia products. We don't do the distribution for those individual businesses, but those are boots on the ground that are looking at, are the products on the shelf? Are they out of stock? They report to us their out of stock reports so that we're able to communicate that to individual businesses so that they can respond quickly. We do have a piece of work that is in its preliminary stages around distribution. Danny, I don't know if you have anything to add around that piece of work.
We have.
I recognize Director Small, please.
Thank you. So we have recently started to focus on distribution around the province. We've hired a dedicated resource who's trying to look at the different routes, the distribution assets located throughout the province, trying to understand what gaps exist within the province, what clusters of activity are there, and we're trying to develop tools and resources that will help our producers better understand how they can get their products to markets within the province.
I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. When I'm talking to small businesses, as I know you are, Ms. Quinn, I think that would be a huge game changer for them is distribution. Small business owners should be working on their small business, not driving all over the province. It's just not a great use of time. So the goal of Nova Scotia Loyal is to improve access to local products across the province. Since the partnership with Walmart started in March of 2025, I have learned that only 9 new local products have made it onto store shelves. What was the department's target for Walmart? Thank you.
I recognize Deputy Morrissey. Sorry.
You almost got promoted, I think. Good luck. I can report that we have 41 Walmart stores within our retail program, and over 198 products are currently on the shelves. That was an increase of net new of 13 different products into Walmart. We've been recognized by Walmart for at least the last year with respect to what we're doing with respect to our program, the Buy Local program. I can also tell you anecdotally, we've received other reports from other retailers who have come to us now basically saying other things on their shelves aren't moving from, example, the United States, and they want more local products. So now we're responding to those requests into those large retailers who are basically saying, we need more of this because that's what their consumers are asking or demanding in some cases. And so I know Melissa and her team are working together with those partners to see how we can increase the number of products. It's, again, not to make excuses, but if it's a food safety program, we're working with now 34 companies to ensure that the products can get on the shelves across the province. And once they get in one, they can get in across to all of them because they meet those national requirements. And so we are trying to increase capacity within the local small businesses and producers to get onto more store shelves.
I recognize MLA Gallagher with 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
3 minutes, 30 seconds. Thank you very much. Yep. So, Deputy Minister Morrissey, you said approximately 11,000 products are involved in Nova Scotia Loyal. So what is the target out of those 11,000 products-ish plus? What is the target to get on Walmart shelves? Do we have, I didn't hear a target number.
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
We've established several different targets for the program this year, of which I mentioned one, which is getting 3,000 businesses signed up in 26-27. We are looking at things such as our website getting increase in number of visits to our website. We are looking at an increase in the number of retail partners from currently 9 up to 11. Sorry, 5 going up to 11. Local products, currently 11,500. We want to get excess of 12,000. Independent retailers going from 26 to 63. So we have established internal targets for a variety of different measurements that we're looking at, and we continue to work every single day with respect to that.
Thank you, Deputy. So I recognize MLA Gallagher.
Thank you. Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm asking how many local products is the department's target to have on shelves in Walmart? Do we have a target?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't have one specific by retailers because retails vary. Our target for local products promoted at commercial retail outlets, we are projecting a 5% increase, so an increase of 575 across all retailers. 575. You're welcome.
I recognize Emily Gallagher with a minute 40 seconds.
Minute 4 seconds. Okay. I want to go back to the distribution questions because Deputy Minister Morrissey, you mentioned that distribution was a bit big and like not where you wanted to go. But then, Mr. Small, you mentioned that maybe this is something that you're interested in, the distribution. Could you just go into a little bit more of thoughts around distribution?
I recognize Director Small, please.
Yes, thank you for the question. So yes, distribution, through our work with the department and on institutional procurement, distribution has commonly come up as one of the #1 barriers. And so we wanted to take a strategic look at how can we support our producers to get into, to lower the obstacles in their way of finding a pathway to an institutional marketplace. So we wanted to understand the distribution layout within Nova Scotia. We want to identify what assets do we have currently available to us. Is there gaps in particular areas, particular regions? Is there distribution assets that aren't available or routing that is not available in current locations, regions throughout the province, that we can try to develop some tools, some systems, promote the awareness of existing assets that are out there, hoping that this will reduce some of those obstacles for our producers trying to enter a marketplace.
15 seconds. I recognize Emily Gallagher.
Well, we will come back for second round. So thank you very much.
I recognize, we'll move to the Liberal portion of questioning, and I recognize the Honourable MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all of you for being here. I think we've talked about this topic at least, I think this might be the 3rd time. I just want to talk about a couple scenarios that I've seen that may not be completely lining up in terms of how the province is coordinating, supporting local companies through Nova Scotia Loyal and through the various departments. So agriculture is here this time. So I am curious about the conversations that went into supporting Hutchinson's, the maple syrup company in the Valley, which a number of that is in the public forum in terms of ending their lease on Crown land. So obviously Natural Resources controls the Crown land access, which this company has had for many, many years and is a big part of their business plan. So I just want to know how that works with the Department of Agriculture talking to the Department of Natural Resources, and how Nova Scotia Loyal specifically was promoting this company, presumably at the same time that Natural Resources was planning on ending their lease, and how those things line up. We had a minister talking glowingly about this product overseas and working on growing markets for this particular company, this product. So how does that line up with the province planning to end the lease for this company?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question, and I'll start. Melissa may have some other context with respect to this. We're unable to discuss much of the surrounding issues around that particular topic for 2 reasons. One's in legal proceedings, and second of all, it's Natural Resources who have that relationship and not any one of the departments represented here today. When we did get feedback from other people within the program, though, around this being a Nova Scotia Loyal partner and the impacts it may have, we did reach out to some of the companies involved and make sure we alleviated some of their concerns, specifically around being a part of this program and promoting the products. Melissa?
No, I think Deputy has, you got it all? Thank you.
All right, I recognize Honourable MLA Rankin.
Okay, thank you. I just would think that the departments are working together to promote a local provider and work at finding ways to solve an issue that is under dispute with the Department of Natural Resources, which is more focused on harvesting land for fiber, and the arrangement clearly wasn't working. But I know I won't get very far because it's under a legal dispute, so I'm going to switch to local manufacturing in terms of housing. So it was talked about procurements growing for Nova Scotia companies. When I think about seeing the opportunities in affordable housing, and I see this was a little while ago, but no tender went out and Kent Building Supplies out of province built a whole bunch of mini homes across the province. And then when the Pallet Village started to go out, you know, substantial funds, $7.5 million to a company that is not a Nova Scotia company. And then you travel the province and you talk to, and not even that far, my own riding, Dow and Duggan Log Homes. They had a prototype right there trying to talk to government and saying, look, we can do this cheaper. And it's beautiful logs from Nova Scotia, but just no opportunity to even bid on something. And so I just don't see that congruent with this focus on local. Now, there are some improvements because I know the latest announcement with Dora and some local providers are there. So that actually proves that it can happen. So my question really is, I guess to start, is how does Nova Scotia Loyal define local in the context of housing, construction materials, and modular housing units?
Deputy Minister Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to recommend we do this maybe in 2 or 3 parts. Conveniently, housing falls under the portfolio of growth and development, and I can speak specifically both from an economic development perspective. It's one of our big 6. So innovative housing methods is an important part to our housing solution moving forward. For the labor issues that we're going to encounter with respect to skilled labor, trying to produce the homes that are required, not just in Nova Scotia, around the world. And second of all, with respect to ensuring the supply chain is ready to stand up and be ready for the next generation of how homes get built. There are many other jurisdictions that are way ahead of us with respect to this, and our local businesses have been active either observing things that are happening in Alberta, as an example, where there's some current manufacturers using robotics, or whether there's trade missions being supported through Invest Nova Scotia or through Department, the branch of housing, where that we are looking at innovative housing methods and how we can help facilitate standing up Dora, but there's 5 or 6 other different manufacturers of off-site builders and how they can participate into growing that business. That's a complicated question with respect to the marketing of those products. There's still a bit of an issue around the demand and supply. The demand for off-site housing still is not at a tipping point. It's something that we're trying to work within some of the modular buildings and off-site builders around how we can increase that. When people think about modular homes, they think about homes on wheels. That's not what they are. If you look at some of the classrooms that are being built around the province, it's all being done by modular building, off-site building. It's known to be more efficient. Part of the point is a price point, and I think some of these home builders will also suggest they're not at the supply point where that the economics are making it more cheaper than current stick-build houses. So that, too, is another limiting factor with respect to how they're participating. One of the first things I did when I started with the department about a year ago was move the construction of public housing over to Build Nova Scotia. They have a lot more expertise with respect to building buildings and institutions, project management of that across the province. We've now seen more participation of off-site builders with respect to public housing bids for some of the work that we are currently doing. The work being done through Build Canada Homes certainly is an important part of that in their perspective of trying to promote more off-site building as well. So things are coming and moving in that direction of trying to build capacity in that area, but there's a lot more work to do with respect to building capacity, making it competitive. Is it the right location, and how does that work? I can tell you from a departmental perspective on this part, we're very active in trying to recruit and help and facilitate more awareness around these options because that is going to be the next generation of how businesses build going into the future. I'm not sure if you have other questions.
I recognize Honourable MLA Rankin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And no, I think there's some work going into capacity building on the modular housing, but there is capacity out there right now in our marketplace. You know, when you think of just having fairness to bid on something substantial, so since you're working on it so much, what percentage of provincially funded housing projects actually use Nova Scotia-made products or Nova Scotia-based builders? How much are you tracking that actually is local?
Recognize Deputy Minister Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have that specific data, but I'm happy to go back and find out where we currently stand with respect to that. As you know, the supply chain is not straight and narrow with respect to products that are available to go into construction build. Some of the products and supply chain within Nova Scotia can go into home or construction methods. Some of it cannot, and that's why it's being redirected to other things, value-added products that can be used, such as wood pellets and the like from an economic perspective. So I think this is about getting the best value for some of the raw material and supply chains that we do have from an economic development perspective. One part of the supply chain is construction and innovative construction methods. So trying to work with that. There are companies such as Dora and some of their sister companies who have mass timber and other capacity that they're building, and we continue to work with them to see of the opportunities, and whether that's in homes or institutional builds as well. But I would have to go back and get the specific data of how much of the supply chain is potentially could go into it and how much is currently being used.
Thank you. I recognize Honourable MLA Rankin with minute 14.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good point, mass timber. I was going to bring that up. So we know mass timber is a little bit more expensive than the traditional concrete build. So what specifically does the government do to value that? Because I think you're well aware that the economic benefits of that local product here should be evaluated at some. The mass timber has been around for a while, so what specifically is the government doing to ensure that we are putting a better valuation on that in terms of tendering and everything?
I recognize Deputy Minister Morrissey with 25 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's, again, that's not a one-word answer to answer that particular piece, because obviously we're trying to drive the best value for Nova Scotia public taxpayers' dollars, and so always trying to drive what's the best price we can do without compromising things such as quality and the stock that may be required to go into supply chain.
Order. We will now move to the PC questioning, and I will start with MLA Van Exen.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you all for coming today. Over the past 30 minutes, you guys have provided a lot of statistics and information in a couple of different spaces, but I was hoping that maybe we could get some more information around a couple of different items. So producers are actively trying to get their products onto the grocery store shelves, and we've spoken a little bit about that. And we need to make investments in the food safety certifications. I understand that a program was recently developed to support these producers, so I'm hoping you can provide more information on this program and what types of support producers can access.
Deputy Morrissey, please.
Thank you for the question, and I'm going to defer to Melissa here in a second. This is one I just want to talk about, and I mentioned multiple times already in this particular hearing and in other hearings. The food safety program is near and dear to my heart, having come from the biotech sector and how important food safety is in that particular sector. And so working with local businesses around food safety is an incredible opportunity to expand the markets that they currently serve. And so, again, the food safety certification is an important part of not just getting on the Nova Scotia shelves, it's about getting on Canadian shelves, reducing trade barriers, and the work that's being done, in particular around interprovincial trade, is really important and critical too. Once you meet the standard for the CFIA with respect to Canadian food standards, you're basically then open to the entire market. Our market of 1 million people in Nova Scotia versus the high 30 million people in Canada is an important market to work within, and that is much easier for a lot of our small businesses than, to be honest with you, going to international markets where that, again, transportation and other complicated factors come into play, like currency and geopolitical issues. So this is one where we saw a massive increase going from 0 up to 34 participating in this program. It directly impacts the number of markets that our companies can work in, and our retailers are really helping get to this level and working with our retailers, because again, once you meet the standard for a Sobeys or for a Foodland or for a Walmart, the world's your oyster with respect to what the potential and number of shelves that you can be from across the country. Melissa may want to speak specifically about some of the companies that have to benefit from this, but I know the companies are really excited by this opportunity and the work that we're doing here to get them over the line with building capacity within their own businesses.
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank
Thank you. Yes, so to Deputy's early comments, retailers are calling us for the first time saying, I have a pallet of U.S. product that I can't move. Can you identify a local alternative for us? Successfully, over the last year, we've introduced 2,600 new products with our retail partners, both commercial retail and independent retail. So that's an increase of 29% shelf space for Nova Scotia products in the past year. The rate limiter is food safety certifications. So there are opportunities for our food and beverage producers, but they don't necessarily have the appropriate food safety certifications. So we stood up this program very quickly. It's $1.5 million over 2 years. We have 34 businesses who've taken advantage of the program. They can receive up to $30,000 in assistance, 100% coverage for any training that's required for staff, and 70% coverage for any other food safety related training like or activities, like audits, facility upgrades, food safety plans, those types of things. So we expect that number from 34 to grow exponentially over the year. It takes a long time to do food safety programming, but the interest is there and the market is driving that agenda for local.
I recognize MLA Van Exen.
Thank you. So you said you had folks coming or businesses coming to you, and what are we doing to reach out to other markets, or how are we marketing this type of opportunity to local businesses?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. I think what's interesting going on in the environment now is that when one business sees somebody else's product on the shelves, they go, how can I do that? And so I think the coalition of the willing here is those small businesses who say, well, if that blueberry company can get their product on the shelves, why can't I? Or if I can get my jam on that shelf, why can't I? And so I think this is a case where all ships rise, and where that companies see one benefit in one sector and go, maybe it's not as cost prohibitive or onerous on the company to get on some of those shelves. We know that the benefit of being at farmers markets, that's hugely beneficial. But a lot of people are still shopping at big box stores. And so it's important for us to work with these large retailers to ensure that we can get our products that are labeled properly, where our brand ambassadors are out there checking on these products. They are Nova Scotia validated through our program, that people can be rest assured when you go buy a Nova Scotia Loyal product, she's checked it, our contractors checked it, we're in the stores checking it, the validation process to ensure that that's a Nova Scotia product, it's there and it's done. And we're working very closely with the businesses to ensure that they meet that quality assurances, and working with whatever business that want to be in it. The food safety program, as I mentioned, is a huge benefit to us. We got 34. We want to keep on expanding that. And if we see a lot more demand for that particular program, we'll continue to work within that sector. Agriculture is one of our big sectors that we're talking about from an economic development. So we'll work with our farmers and our agriculture industry and how we can better serve them to get more products on the shelves.
I recognize MLA Van Exen.
Thank you, and thank you for those answers. There's a new application stream for food service under NSL. What would be the benefit for local restaurants and institutions to join the program?
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. Yes, we recently launched a new stream. So we have 3 streams, one for producers who produce local products, one for retailers who sell at least one Nova Scotia made product, and then one for food service. So that can be restaurants, institutions, food service distributors, anyone that's kind of in that food space. Currently we have 38 approved businesses in that stream, but what we're hearing from institutions specifically that are currently purchasing local products, that the products stay fresher longer, they're decreasing food waste. It's increasing pride among staff and patients in institutions. In fact, Nova Scotia Loyal has received multiple birth announcements from the IWK alongside a bag of sliced apples from the Station Food Hub. So patients really value when they know that those products are coming from Nova Scotia companies. Once they sign up for the program, they receive access to all of our marketing materials, our online directory. We work with our colleagues at Department of Agriculture, especially on the institutional procurement side, to say what local products are you looking, what percentage of local are you currently procuring, and what would you like to get to, where are your gaps? And we work actively with those businesses to ensure that we have more local products on those menus.
I recognize MLA Van Exen.
Thank you, and I think I had seen you speak on a panel with the station food hub as well, and I was able to go to that announcement and see the launch of the apple slices and really understand how departments are working together and then bringing them into institutions. So seeing the value from the farmers who are trying to get their products to different markets, and then how the middleman like the food hub can take that and then provide institutions with locally grown food. It's been really great to see so much collegiality and departments working together. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that, but I'll pass it on to my colleagues.
I recognize MLA Macquarie.
Thank you, and thanks for being here, everyone. Great information. So as far as local products go, our farmers markets throughout the province really provide access for local producers, artisans, crafters to have their products available to locals and visitors alike. I know the farmers market in Mobwa, I'm there every Sunday. And it's not just the vending, it's not just the market, there's a real community aspect to them. You can walk around and see people you haven't seen for a while. And I certainly have increased the amount of conversations I've been having at the farmers market since becoming MLA. Even the ability to have a table and have people come and ask you questions. So it's real powerful model. Having the farmers market voucher program and strengthening farmers markets in that way, can you tell us how it was designed and how is it performing?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give you top line stuff, and I want to give credit to Melissa, with one person working on within the department on the Nova Scotia Loyal Program. The amount of work, effort that she's put into program design and the flexibility of changing on the fly while getting feedback from our businesses and producers and from consumers has been absolutely, so she'll give you a little bit more details on program design. The Farmers Market Program in the 3 years it's been around has only increased in interest and excitement. And so over 55,594 vouchers were redeemed last year, a significant uptake of 260% year over year. The percentage of first-time visitors, again, getting more people into those farmers markets. It's becoming cool again to hang out at the farmers market, and the number of young people. I think this is the thing about being in the schools. While the kids are getting educated about farmers markets, it's the parents that are buying it. So you're getting multiple of interest from the kids who get those vouchers, but also from the parents who had to take them there. And we're hearing stories about two sisters going to a farmers market and excited about spending their $20, which ends up being $40 to come up with a recipe that they found online with homemade or local products. And again, there are literally lots of those stories. I don't want to over-exaggerate, but there are lots of those examples of people going into farmers markets and having those conversations and getting more interested about that industry. It's an industry that certainly we've not paid attention to that much, I would argue, in the last little bit, but now it's starting to become cool again, and our focus on agriculture as a key sector moving forward. Almost $800,000 of total purchases through the farmers market vouchers programs. And as, again, the interest, one of the things that we did, the top 10 schools that validate their vouchers, this again is an incentive to get more schools active within their own environment, get to have some resources allocated to them with respect to promoting what they're doing around their own school and getting excited. So again, it's not just down to the one student or one parent. This is now schools making this a bit of a movement and getting excited about going and visiting the farmers market in the spring before school is over and talking about all those different things. So it's being integrated unintentionally through a school program of here we are now having teachers and schools promoting homemade products, agriculture industries, all those great things we want to do. And again, I think the linkage is back to making it local, and talking about those stories is really important. But you can talk more about how the program was developed. The unintended consequences of this program are actually tremendous, and the fact that we've been able to offer it now to new immigrants, to post-secondary institutions, to new people who may be coming as a post-secondary student, now seeing our local food, our markets, farmer markets, has been a huge potential unintended consequence that benefits all of us.
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. We actually piloted the program in 2023 with 3 school districts and 11 farmers markets, and that was kind of our first dip of our toe into the program. A resounding success. We had a 54% redemption rate of those vouchers that we did in that first year. We had 10,000 that we put out, so it was just a very small pilot. Quickly, the following year, it became a stapled program for us, and we opened the program to all public school, homeschool, and MK students in the province with 215 or 135,000 vouchers, and that year we had 16.8% redemption. Last year, we included newcomers to Nova Scotia to that, as well as post-secondary. We had a 30.6% redemption rate that year. It's important to note that nationally, 5 to 10% redemption rate for coupon-based programs is considered success, and that's when the coupon is actually making it to the end user. These vouchers are making a different journey through a backpack home to a parent or guardian, and then back to a market. So that 30.6%, when we know that the national redemption is generally 5 to 10% considered success, we're really happy with that. We have a target to hit 40% this year. We're confident that we'll hit that. As Deputy has mentioned, the top 10 schools with the highest percentage of redemption rate of the vouchers will receive Nova Scotia Loyal products for their food program. So whether it's their lunch program or their school breakfast program. So dangling a little carrot to get folks to engage with the program. Some teachers are actually using it as part of their curriculum in economic development classes and home ec classes and things like that. So we've seen some really great things, and we're inspiring the next generation of buy local. I know I have a young daughter that definitely inspires my purchasing behaviors at home. So it's been a really humbling program to work in, and with the announcement last week, the students knew. As soon as they got that voucher, they knew what to do. They literally visited every vendor at that market before they were willing to part with that $10. That was $10 that they were given to spend on their own, and we had young students walking around biting off baguettes. We had students coming over to show us, I just got $10 worth of frozen apple cider, and they were so thrilled. It was like they won the lottery. So it's one of the most rewarding aspects of the Nova Scotia Loyal program that we have, for sure.
Recognize MLA Macquarie.
Thank you. That's incredible. What partners are participating in the 10% cash incentive program, and how have the results been to date?
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
For that. There's only 3 operating online farmers markets right now: Antigonish Farmers Market, the Cape Breton Food Hub, and the Wolfville Farmers Market to go, as well as Taste Nova Scotia with their online gift basket program. So we offer 10% off, so using that code NSLoyal10, you can receive 10% off your purchase 365 days a year. Convenience is becoming a thing for most shoppers, so those individuals probably won't go to the market on the weekend, but probably will do an online order. So what we're seeing with the 10% coupon code that we have, let me see here, 23.8% is the lift in sales when that 10% coupon code is being used, and we've had over 6,000 orders to date for over $400,000 within those 4 online systems. If there are other online markets that come on board, we would welcome them into the program.
I recognize MLA Macquarie.
Is the collateral that's used to promote Nova Scotia Loyal, such as shirts, hats, and other merchandise, locally sourced?
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. we take great pride in ensuring that all of our products, our Nova Scotia Loyal products, our clothing, our print materials, everything. I can personally attest that they are all Nova Scotia Loyal businesses. It gives us a chance to showcase local products and the local businesses that we support.
Recognize MLA Macquarie.
Well, that's a relief. I'll pass it on to.
I recognize MLA McGilvery with about 12 minutes left.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm from Pictou County. As people know, in January 2020, Northern Pulp shut down. So I just have a question about forestry. So tell us about Nova Scotia Loyal's work with the forestry sector and what efforts are being made to engage with producers and educate consumers on the sector.
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. We're working actively with Forestry Nova Scotia. So forest products are eligible for the Nova Scotia Loyal program. So we have lumber manufacturers, we have pellet manufacturers, molding, millwork, all of those types of things as part of the program. We are actively working to expand our merchandising program beyond grocery retail into home improvement retail centers. So we're at the beginning stages of that. So having merchandisers go in and label locally sourced contracting materials in those retail locations are kind of our next goal. We're getting close to achieving that. We've also worked with Forestry Nova Scotia on their Our Trees campaign and educating consumers on sustainable forestry.
MLA McGilvery.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much. This might be for Mr. Mitchell. Maybe what procurement practices are in place to support local vendors?
Deputy Minister Munro.
Thanks very much for the question. Well, there's a number of things, and the first is that 10% advantage that I talked about earlier, where if there's a Nova Scotia proponent within a procurement activity that's less than the CFTA. So for clarity, that's $139,000 for services and $34,700 for goods. That 10% advantage would put them over the mark, and they would be the winner if they were competing against a firm outside of Nova Scotia or outside of Canada. And that really takes into account that line that always is in there that you lose out because you're going for price or you're going for the scoring criterion that allows us to ensure that Nova Scotia companies that still drive great value, if they aren't the top proponent, that they actually get nudged over the line with that 10% advantage. So certainly that's one. And the other thing that we've done is we talked about it earlier about awareness. And so how do we help Nova Scotia businesses understand government opportunities in procurement? And so how do you build out awareness? We have started probably 2 years ago sending out a quarterly, I guess, call it a report or a letter to Chamber of Commerce across the province saying, this quarter, these are vendors in your community that have won tenders with government. And so for those chambers, when they look at that reporting, they'll say, well, why don't I see X, Y, and Z? Or why don't I see A, B, and C company as an opportunity? So it creates a conversation, but it also points vendors to the TONS portal, which is where they can sign up for what they're interested in, what their product is, and so they can get proactively pushed procurements that are coming up in any particular space that they're interested in. And that's key because everything goes through that TONS tender portal for all government procurement. So with that, is there anything else you wanted to add, my colleague?
I recognize Mr. Mitchell.
Thanks very much. It's exciting. What's really funny is this has been going on now for a couple of years, right? So it feels old to us, but the question is new, and so it almost feels like we should re-explain. But a number of things came up originally when we did that directive. One of the ones was making it easier for local, small, medium enterprises. And one of the things they continuously had comment about was it takes a long time for us to get paid. So one of the other real major changes to this was the government decided to increase the amounts that you could use a purchase card, a P card for, from $2,500 to $5,000, which may not sound like a lot, but for a small business who is waiting 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to get $4,000, we fixed some of that billing part of that. But in order to do it really quickly, we bumped up the price or the limits on single transactions for P cards, making it quicker payments for smaller vendors. And the feedback was just remarkable, actually. It was like, I can't carry $20,000 or $30,000 worth of bill payments for 90 days. So that was one of the other ones. There was a number of smaller ones, but by and large, all the things in that directive have demonstrated government's sort of commitment to the small business. And making it easier for them to do business with government.
I recognize MLA McGilvery.
Thank you for that. Sounds like lots of good work being done on the procurement side of things. What are some of the items that came into effect with the Nova Scotia Advantage Directive, or items perhaps related to it?
I recognize Deputy Munro.
It's similar to the first question, but a couple other things. If there is a large procurement, say $10 million or over, one of the first things that the department needs to do is check in with Invest Nova Scotia to say, I've got this upcoming procurement. Is there a way that, and this is a requirement of the directive, so have a conversation with our colleagues over at Invest Nova Scotia, now with Deputy Morrissey, to say, if we're going to market, is there something that we could add on as a benefit to Nova Scotians as part of this larger procurement when we're going out to attract proponents to potentially show their interest. So there's a conversation now that happens, so that's in place, and we'll see where that goes. But we don't do a whole lot of that kind of level with the departments that are right across the system. And I think the other thing is we've decentralized some of the low-value procurement so that you don't necessarily, it was very burdensome to always come into the SAP Ariba system and work with Chris's team. So again, low-value procurement is below the CFTA trade value, and so departments can go and purchase and do 3 quotes for those requirements, and obviously have all the required approvals and things in place, but they don't have to route through Chris's shop, which always, we only have so many people in that shop, and it's considered to be efficient for Nova Scotian businesses, where we don't have to have a longer procurement process, process, but it's gives the departments a little bit more flexibility on these low value, lower risk procurements. Anything to add?
I recognize Mr. Mitchell.
Thanks very much. So to be conscious of about a $1.8 billion expenditure annually, Nova Scotia sits, generally speaking, between 72 and 73% of that will go to Nova Scotia firms already. So when we put this together, we knew that we weren't going to move the needle dramatically in the small purchases. And it really wasn't about that. We were looking at moving the needle to Nova Scotia vendors in the $30 to $50 million range annually, right? This was about, at its core, this was about the stories which we would hear that a Nova Scotia firm missed out just by a small amount, by how come I didn't get awarded by $10 or $100 or $1,000. And so very much so, we didn't expect to move the 72, 73% of the $1.8 billion. What we expected to do was to hear back from vendors who said, because of that 10% advantage below those CFTA values, like Deputy Munro mentioned, I was awarded the contract. And that has been the case. So it's difficult to do it on an aggregated number, because the $30 million against the 1.8 billion is hard to pull apart. But certainly anecdotally from the stories of people saying, I was awarded when I wouldn't have been, and down to what Deputy Munro mentioned about the decentralized being done now at the department levels, at those quick buying sort of things that they're turning over much more rapidly than we do at the strategic level, it's been pretty successful. Thanks.
Recognize MLA McGilvery with 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. It does sound like you're being very strategic with that, so thank you for that work. To drill down into a little bit deeper, maybe you've kind of touched on this with the Chamber of Commerce letters and stuff, but what steps are being taken to ensure that this program can deliver for rural businesses?
Recognize Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, thanks very much for the question. So two specific pieces. One is, as part of the trade agreements, there was an opportunity for 10 times a year, up to $1 million to do a regional or a rural economic development sort of approach, which left government the opportunity to select a not urban area vendor for a direct award for a piece of government business. It's used across the Atlantic provinces. They're the 4 of the Atlantic provinces are the ones that had it built specifically into the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And so it presses out of the urban area and into the rural areas for that piece. And I think the other part would be we are, that's predominantly the piece which is out into the rural space. The rest is kind of more general than that. Thanks.
Recognize MLA Bowlby with minute 20 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. I've distributed a little handout there to all my committee members and to our witnesses. The extremely handsome couple on the front cover there, the front page, that's my grandparents. And way back in the late 70s, my grandmother and grandfather, Graham, had retired from the farm, and they were very much instrumental in getting started this Atlantic Canada Plus and promoting local products and getting them in store shelves, getting them into schools and so on. And here we are 40-some years later, and we're still doing it. And I think that just echoes wonderful about how long that we've been promoting Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia products. So just a little something for all to take home. We got
Thank
couple
you.
seconds.
We'll move to the second portion of our questioning, second round of questions. The NDP Caucus is first with 10 minutes, and I recognize MLA LeBlanc.
Thank you very much. And I was wondering who put this here. I remember that logo from when I was a kid, so that's how old I am. I want to just switch back for a moment, just to get the conversation back to Nova Scotia Loyal proper for a moment. So we know that many Nova Scotians are having to choose between eating and paying their power bills or heating their homes. And that means many people are making choices at the grocery store that are based not on they're based on cost and not on whether something is local. How is the department tracking how Nova Scotia Loyal is impacting affordability in Nova Scotia?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are not tracking that as a metric for the Nova Scotia Loyal program. As a department, we certainly do track things such as Consumer Price Index, GDP, and other macroeconomic data to see where we currently are where we're trending, I guess. They're lagging trends. What I will say is a lot of the things that we do through the Nova Scotia Loyal program assists or facilitates some of the affordability. So back to the vouchers with respect to the farmers markets, that's a great opportunity for people to purchase with the $10 voucher as an example. The online farmers market is another great example of where we're trying 10% discount to people who are purchasing online. There are other things that we're doing with respect to the program of promoting businesses. More businesses growth will provide hopefully more value to those businesses and providing more economic spin-offs to the community. So there are lots of different spin-offs that aren't necessarily specifically tracked with respect to Nova Scotia Loyal, but are trying to be managed moving ahead. We are tracking the number of products that are on the shelves, as I mentioned, the number of stores that they're in, the availability of some of these products. And I think there are more people choosing local products because they are local. So even though that sometimes they may not be the most inexpensive product there, they know that the impact it will have back into the local communities through the food programs is very, very important. Melissa, would you like to add anything else on the affordability? No? Okay, well, you have your answer.
I recognize MLA LeBlanc.
Thanks, and just a quick follow-up about that. So we know that there's an increase, as you said, about in the purchasing of local products. Is there any information collection on who is actually purchasing more local goods as a result of Nova Scotia Loyal? Are there any customer surveys or anything like that happening in the last, since the program was launched?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. So we do have data, for example, through our loyalty program, through the SEAM program. We know what specific products and the lift that they would have gotten for those specific products. So we have some of that micro data. I'll say micro in the sense that we know some of the commercial sensitive information we can't share, but some of the aggregate numbers we can share. And I think we would have shared through some just in the last couple of days with respect to some of the data that came out of the SEAM program and the impact it has had on specific products and the lift that they would have seen during certain weeks. Number of products, the lift in sales in those products, the number of store shelves they're on, the number of, I think almost on average, it was between 90 and 100,000 products were purchased during those periods, but maybe Melissa can give you more specific data. But we have a fair amount of data that we can take a look at. And in the early days when the points program was put in place to raise brand awareness around being in the retailers, it was an important part to bring up the general awareness. Now people know they're being sold on the shelves and the number of products are being sold. So our focus now is on more on labeling, so that when they now go into the retailers, they know they can find the Nova Scotia Loyal products, and they can be 100% certain that those products are Nova Scotia producers supplying those shelves.
I recognize MLA LeBlanc.
Thank you. And we were talking about the market vouchers earlier. I like to call them market bucks. But also I wanted to talk about the Book Bucks program. So similar to Taste of Nova Scotia publishers were caught off guard by the budget when the Minister of CCTH eliminated the full $700,000 book publishers grant, Publishers Assistance Program. When we asked about this in the legislature, the Minister of Growth and Development implied that Nova Scotia Loyal's book voucher program was a suitable replacement. So given that, did the department conduct an analysis to determine the economic impact of the book voucher program, or any analysis to compare the economic impact of the voucher program to the economic impact of the Publisher Assistance Program?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. And so the analysis we have is that we know that there was 4,000 vouchers that were available of $10 each for more than 1,600 book titles across 11 different independent bookstores. It was a pilot project that, again, was brought to us as an example of how we can reach other different consumers and different producers of Nova Scotia Loyal products. We had a 72% redemption rate, so almost 2,887 to be exact. That resulted in over $86,000 in sales to locally authored and published books. And again, the unintended benefit of this is more the awareness. More people are out looking for books in those local publishers. More people were aware of some of these books. So while not everybody may have purchased those books, the general awareness has gone up. We had more people driven into local bookstores, and there were more titles purchased from Nova Scotia writers as well. So we have that data that's been collected. It was a pilot, and like any other pilot, we do an analysis to see if the benefit and whether we should proceed with that program. Are there any improvements we would do? Are there different markets we would do something online? So again, we do the program evaluation, and we continue to do that with this particular program.
Recognize MLA LeBlanc.
So that evaluation is underway, and do you have a sense of when you will make a decision about whether you'll repeat the program?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
I don't have a specific date that I can tell you today, but like all of our programs, and with the budget scarce resources that we do have, we're evaluating all the programs within the Nova Scotia Loyal program to make sure we take a look at the best value for dollars for the reach we're trying to do with respect to the impact. So the measurements we're looking at, number of retailers that we're engaging, number of products we are serving, number of producers we're reaching, number of consumers that are engaged. So that will go on through the summer, and as budgets are allocated, I can say with certainty that the one area that we are cutting back on is around the advertising, because based on the feedback and research that we have, we know people already understand what Nova Scotia Loyal is. They know that what the program objectives are, and so we are looking at all different programs. I can't say with 100% certainty the program will be on or not on this year. We have lots of different events we're looking at, lots of different requests from different industries that we're trying to support.
I recognize Emily LeBlanc with 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, the worry, of course, is that if you do renew the program, and I hope you do, that there's going to be less Nova Scotia books titles to direct people to because of the lack of the publisher assistance program. So, because that is going to make or break certain books being published in general. So in 2023, book publishing contributed $6.6 million to the province's GDP and employed 71 people. And now we're the only province without a publisher assistance program. So as the department responsible for economic development, Deputy Morrissey, was anyone in your department consulted before that cut to the publisher program went forward?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey, minute 16.
Great, thank you. My job with the economic development side of the business was identifying the key priority sectors, and I was explicit to my colleagues and to departments around what the big six are. But that's not to say we're not working in other industries and other local businesses. A good example of that is Nova Scotia Loyal. There are lots of budget deliberations and discussions that go on with respect to impacts to different programs. People are aware of our Nova Scotia Loyal program and the things that we do. They're aware that we do these program evaluations ongoing to see where the net benefits are with respect to the different programs we offer. And as new ideas come in, we will continue to take a look at the ideas that do come in.
Recognize the, MLA LeBlanc, 30 seconds.
Well, in my last 30 seconds, I'll thank you all for being here, but I will also say that if we're looking at economic development in any lens, whether it's the big six or any kind of development, economic development is economic development, and if we're making money on something, we should be hoping that it succeeds. So I really hope that as we go forward, that the arts and culture sector that took such a heavy cut, and other sectors, of course, in the budget will be re-examined, and that their rate of return and their...
Order.
Thank you.
Order. We'll now move to the Liberal with the Honourable MLA Monmarquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being here today. So in my 10 minutes, I'm going to do a bit of follow-up from the Public Accounts Committee meeting of October 2025, where we talked about the impacts of Nova Scotia Loyal. At the time, and in October, we asked whether the Nova Scotia Loyal program was able to increase demand for products by the stated goal of 10% and create nearly 20,000 jobs as outlined in the government's platform. At that time, Mr. Morrissey and Ms. Quinn weren't able to provide us with any concrete data on the outcomes of the program. So my question to the committee today, what data can you provide us today about how far the program has come in meeting its promised goals?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. Part of the data that we have now supplied to public accounts is some of the information that was requested out of the economic data from the points program, and so that data is now specifically available, albeit with redacted parts with respect to commercially sensitive information. That will show some of the lift by product of where the increases of product lift has come from that. Melissa, do you want to add anything else?
Ms. Quinn?
Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, when we launched the program in July of 2024, we had the points program with Scene Plus and Sobeys, and we did see immediately a 20% lift in the sale of local products. We're seeing that maintained now with our merchandising program. So folks were trying new products, becoming loyal to those new products, and maintaining that. There's other global economic pressures that are influencing people's purchase decisions as well, but we are definitely maintaining that 20% and then also having that 29% increase in shelf space for local, which is an accomplishment we're proud of for the last fiscal.
I recognize the Honourable MLA Marquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the deputy's point. So there were several pieces of follow-up information from the departments requested at the public accounts meeting, but we never received them. This included an insight report on the program statistics, a budget, and several other reports. Specifically, Ms. Quinn, at the time, you indicated that the department received monthly insight reports on trade spends in relation to the Scenes Plus program. I requested the information at the time, and that there was some sensitive individual business data in the reports that they would be provided when done. Then it was requested by committee that the department table a budget from the $950,000 Sobeys contract, detailing where the expenditures were spent. Also, it was requested by the committee that to table the documents on the reporting from farmers about their sales program interventions, the increases in the Nova Scotia product listing in stores, and intermittent reports from retailers and producers. And at the time, Deputy, you indicated that the department would have more statistical data by the end of the year once the voucher program was complete. And my question is, do you have that information with you today?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, letter dated May 15, 2026 to MLA LeBlanc has been provided. It was just very recent, so it's in the process of being distributed to you. I apologize about the delays. There was some commercial sensitive data in the insights report that we just wanted to validate back and forth with the commercial partners. This does take time, unfortunately, to go back and forth between either the retailer or the supplier. But based on the supporting documentation for the programs, there's a baseline spend that's attached in that letter. The detailed budget breakdown is also in the PDF agreement, has now been attached to that documentation. The progress and stated goals, those targets reference 10%. That too is attached to that letter. And again, a redacted version of the Sobeys Insight Report is also attached to that letter on May 15th, 2026.
I recognize the Honourable MLA Marquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We look forward to seeing that information when it comes to public accounts. I'm going to move on now to the 2026 program announcements. A recent news release from the Department of Growth and Development stated that last year 29% of redeemed Nova Scotia Loyal Farmer Market vouchers were from a first-time visitor to the farmers market, with those visits resulting in $787,730 in purchases from local producers. How did the department track this information?
I recognize Deputy Minister Morrissey.
I'll start, and again, I'll get Melissa to flip through the pages to get some of that data and how we got it. Obviously, distribution of vouchers is not an easy task, and so in collecting the information from the vouchers, again, is compiling some of that data. So, because when we're dealing with the farmers markets, they don't have a sophisticated retailing program where it can track specific by SKU, and so that can be complicated. So it did take a fair amount of time in the fall to go through all of the different vouchers that were received by the department, to go through all of the barcodes that were required to get the information that we were looking for. Melissa would have a lot more detailed information specifically in how we collect that data and how we're to get some of those results. We are looking at ways, just to finish up, being more nimble on how we can do that. Again, without being too onerous onto some of the businesses. The feedback is clear to us. Do not make business harder for them when we're trying to do programs to help them support their businesses. So we are trying to achieve multiple desired goals, one of which is not to be onerous on businesses with respect to reporting on what they have to do, because their life is already complicated. It's already been discussed around things like distribution systems that are very complicated. So we are trying to be cognizant that businesses do not want to be more complicated, but certainly want to provide data so we can educate ourselves and make good decisions around our programs we have. Melissa?
I recognize the Honourable MLA Marquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you provide what areas of the province were most of these purchases made?
I recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Sorry, I'm asking which products are you talking about? Farmers products, retailers?
I recognize Honourable MLA.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. It's a follow-up to the question around the farmers' market vouchers. So just a question is what part of the province were they sold the most?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
I'm going to actually defer to my colleague Melissa to give you a little bit more information with respect to some of that data.
Recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you. All of the individual vouchers have a serial number, so we know which school it was issued to and where it was ultimately redeemed. We do have that data. Unfortunately, it's not in our package today, but we can certainly provide that to you. We can get down to what schools, what percentage redemption, what markets percentage redemption, what percentage of new visitors to those individual markets, and then the spend, et cetera. So we do have all that data available, just not with us today.
Recognize the Honourable MLA Marquette with 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many new farmers markets joined the program for the upcoming season?
Recognize Ms. Quinn.
As of this week, there are 5 new farmers markets that have joined the program.
Recognize Honourable MLA Marquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My next question is, same topic. What strategy does the department have to get people physically out to farmers markets, many of which are in rural areas of the province?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. I think one of the early lessons around the school voucher program and the lessons we've learned about expanding, the schools was probably the best place where we can get the kids going to schools and expanding into new immigrants, expanding to post-secondary institutions. We are already reaching a very broad market across the entire province. And as Melissa has mentioned, we're in 5 new farmers markets. So the opportunities to go into different markets are available to them. So that program has expanded. The uptake has been higher. We'll continue to get feedback from businesses on other things, other ways. The online component of buying online, we're available. If more farmers markets could go online, we'll get them into the program.
Recognize the Honourable MLA Marquette with 40 seconds.
40 seconds, so very quickly. How much of those local producers are in the lunch program? So we're putting the vouchers into the schools, which students can use, but we also want local produce being utilized in the lunch program. So are you working with the local farmers markets too? It's a great opportunity for them to bring their product implement it into the lunch program, so we can give them the opportunity to feed our children, but also give them that economic opportunity.
I recognize the Honourable Deputy Morrissey with 7 seconds, but maybe.
I don't want to be promoted, please. Yeah, no, stop. I'll just say.
Order. I recognize the MLA Balby, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to talk about institutional procurement for a minute or two there. Can you describe how institutional procurement has become a priority for the Department of Agriculture?
I recognize Mr. Small. Mr. Small.
Thank you for the question. So the farmers and industry associations have told us that they want to see Nova Scotia products represented in our schools, our hospitals, among other institutions, and that they want to create new and sustainable markets as a result. There's tremendous potential in the institutional space. Some of these organizations are the largest purchasers of food and beverage products in the province, so a small percentage gain can translate to tens of thousands of dollars in increased local products. Creating tools for farmers and agribusinesses to distribute and sell their products to provincial institutions and helping them navigate this process. This is a place where the department is positioned well to support publicly supported institutions. You know, they need to be at the front of the line in supporting local.
I recognize MLA Bobby.
What else is the Department of Agriculture doing to create more opportunities in the institutional procurement for farms and agriculture businesses?
Recognize Director Small.
Thank you. The department's creating opportunities for farmers and agribusinesses by improving access to institutional markets and reducing barriers to participation. This includes connecting local suppliers with procurement leads at institutions, identifying local substitution opportunities at institutions, supporting food safety and business readiness through programs like IDEA, strengthening distribution networks, and working with partners to build sustainable pathways for more Nova Scotia products to reach public institutions. We're working directly with our colleagues at Education to get more local food on the menus of the schools involved in the Phase 2 of the school lunch program. So through programs, trade, and education events, we'll continue to help Nova Scotia producers and agribusinesses understand the process and get the support they need to enter an institutional market. Another quick example of some things that the department has led is the development of resources like the institutional procurement guide for institutions. This shares information on what are some of the benefits of buying local, what's in season, where to find local options. It shares some success stories, best practices, and then resources that are available to support the institution in identifying local substitution opportunities.
I recognize Emily Volby.
In the last year or so, I had an opportunity to speak with the Turkey Producers Association, and the outgoing president said that if every Nova Scotian consumed just one more turkey, that it would drive production about 50%. So I know there's so many opportunities, and for products to come in, and if we can track that, like the great job that we're doing with data management, is there any data tracking for institutional procurement foods?
I recognize Director Small.
Thanks again for the question. So one of the things with institutions that makes it very complex in terms of tracking is they all operate on very different models, and there's many I guess partners or players involved in the supply chain from producer to institution to the end marketplace. So when we take on a project where we're trying to understand the current spend on local products, we try to create a baseline, and then from that point on, we're able to track any increases or impacts on the results of the project or initiative we led. But prior to that, some organizations are in very early stages of trying to understand where they're at with local procurement, whereas organizations like with Nova Scotia Health are doing a fantastic job, and they have a number and they can tell you monthly on how much their local spend is.
Recognize MLA Volby.
I know a few years ago, it was reported that around a third of grocery spending was on local products. But what does the percentage of food spending on local food look like across other provinces in Canada? And how does Nova Scotia perform in comparison today?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had to go back and get some of the data with respect to where Nova Scotia stands against national markets. The numbers that we talked about today was about number of businesses engaged with the program, the lift in sales that they currently have with the program. But we're happy to look to see where we can find that data and show some of those comparables with respect to where Nova Scotia stands against the rest of the country. Melissa did make one statement with respect to success of our program, a 30% uptake, I think it was around farmers markets. The national standard is somewhere between 5 and 10. We're at 30 or 29%. And so this is the impact that we're having directly to producers into our farmers markets and people buying. And we also know we have a lot of data with respect to individual sales from a retail perspective. But we'll be happy to see if we can find some more additional data for comparison points nationally on what we're trying to do and achieve. We are also being nationally recognized by other provinces on the work we are doing, and we are getting more inbound calls with respect to how did you do that? A lot of other loyalty programs are branding exercises. They're like, look at us, we got loyal products. What we actually do is get deep into the market and get straight to the store shelves. There are others that are doing it well as well. Ontario with the Foodland program certainly is one. But we are certainly very proud of the program that we've been able to stand up, engage with producers, engage with 2,000 companies, engage with over the 12,000 products that are being sold throughout Nova Scotia. And there's a lot of very good stores. And every day, the first thing Melissa thinks about when she gets to work is, but how can I improve the program? And so certainly working with our contractors, being out in the stores and checking the stores twice a month, quality assurance and making sure we can have the greatest impact as possible is a key priority for us from an economic development perspective and also from a Nova Scotia Loyal perspective.
Recognize MLA Bobby.
Is there any other pilot projects that you're working on that you'd care to share? And then further to that, would you like to share some huge success stories with us?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Well, I can't tell you about any pilot projects because they're super secret until we actually launch them. They wouldn't be a secret until we actually landed the pilot programs. But I will say it's very innovative, and certainly Melissa would have more of these conversations than I would. But I think the book program was a great example of engaging with consumer associations and provincial associations on how they would want to contribute. And so that's the one thing that when I'm talking to things, and whether it's in the big industrial things that we do around defense as an example, the feedback we get about Nova Scotians is that we're innovative and we're able to stand up very quickly and pivot and change and get to the direct, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and we try to solve it. And sometimes we're really good at it and sometimes we're not. But if we're not, we adjust and we move on. I'll give you just a couple if I could, if you bear with me. So Roddy Dion, co-owner of Boatskeg Distilling Company, the quote from this company: "Since joining the NSL program, our businesses have seen a shift in how local consumers engage with our brand. Last year, we experienced 30% increase in total sales, a milestone we directly attributed to program's visibility and the renewed consumer passion for supporting local producers. We've always been a proud Nova Scotian company, and the NSL program definitely gives a powerful economic boost for local business like ours." I say Nova Scotia Loyal because when you say NSL, everybody expects the C to come afterwards. And the Station Food Hub, Rebecca, founder of the Station Food Company, another good example. The Station Food Hub was able to secure both Loblaws and Sobeys retail contracts, new distribution partners, and improve relationships with Gordon Food Service for institutional opportunities. That's a result of participation in both the cost-shared labeling program and food safety program. We have observed a sales increase of 30%. The labeling program is only a $3,000. It's a small contribution, but the impact we're seeing is tremendous. And how that sense of pride, community pride that people have of having that label on their product, it goes a long ways beyond just the economic benefits of increased sales. Sean Miles, owner of Annapolis Fine Cheese, which I'm sure is near and dear to some people's hearts. The Nova Scotia Loyal Program has created widespread recognition of the importance of supporting local businesses all across Nova Scotia. It's not just a program, it's a movement. This movement has boosted our artisanal cheese business into high gear. We believe that a lot of our support we are getting from retailers and consumers stems from the use of the Nova Scotia Loyal logo on our products. The Nova Scotia Loyal team has been great to work with. They've helped us getting more stores on board, and reception by deli managers at both Sobeys and Loblaw stores has been phenomenal. They want our products thanks to Nova Scotia. Again, one of the things I use as a measurement in my everyday life is that when people are starting to call us and asking instead of us trying to push, that particular piece is really critical to the ongoing success of the Nova Scotia Loyal Program, but many other programs. When people start taking credit for the good work we're doing, we're not about credit. We're just trying to push the movement forward, and that's the stuff that Melissa and the team that we have supporting, mostly contractors. She's the only staff person supporting this program. For the amount of money we're spending, $7.6 million this year, and the one person leading this, there's an awful lot of work being done, and the economic benefits, while it may not be in the billions of dollars, the sense of pride, the unintended consequences, and the economic benefits of increased sales of local produce producers and retailers. It's a huge benefit to all Nova Scotians.
Recognize MLA Bobby.
Maybe Mr. Small, can you talk about the department's involvement in the school lunch program and your broader efforts to put a buy local lens on some of the programming within the department?
I recognize Director Small.
Great, thank you for the question. So we see the school lunch program as a tremendous opportunity to get more local products on the menus of the lunch program, and we have a great partnership with the Department of Education. So we meet regularly with the procurement leads, and we try to look at what's currently being purchased, what's offered through the menus. Are there local substitution options available? If so, how could that work? Where could they be sourced? So these are the types of conversations that we have with our partners to try and identify good opportunities within institutions.
I recognize MLA Bowlby.
How does the program help lower the barrier of entry to wider distribution and sales province-wide?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
Not one part of the program does it. I think multiple different parts of the program do that, whether it's the Nova Scotia Loyal Labeling Program, where we know that label does have an impact, where people know the label now when they go into a grocery store or go into a farmer's market, that they know where to go get it. Whether the food safety, we're making sure that more products can be put on shelves. So the subsidies we provide are small, but they have a huge impact with respect to more shelf space, more products on shelves, more awareness of products themselves. All of those things are there. I just want to build upon the point around the school lunch program. Again, the way things happen around things like apples, and this goes back to partnerships. So one of the limitations around the apples would have been about slices of apples. Through work with agriculture and Invest Nova Scotia and coming up with a program where that, to make it more efficient to cut the apples to get to the food safety requirements, we're able to make sure that now apple slices can be a part of that menu, or will be a part of that menu if it hasn't already done so. But that's the cross-departmental work, and whether it's through the Crown corporations or through the different departments, there are lots of moving parts. And bit by bit, incrementally, we are trying to find solutions to complex problems. Trying to put food into a lunch for a school that may be in some jurisdiction is not an easy solution. As small as that may sound, is not necessarily an easy one to solve immediately. But a lot of good work is being done, a lot of creativity is being used, and a lot of partners are being engaged with respect to how we can meaningfully engage a lot of small to medium-sized enterprises across Nova Scotia in programs that impact Nova Scotians every day.
I recognize MLA Bowlby.
Get to ask all the questions here. I'm pretty sure that you folks have developed a website that is a list of people that are signed up. How is that being disseminated, and what's the success on that?
Recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you for the question. So it is optional for all of our Nova Scotia Loyal businesses to be part of the online directory. So there is a publicly facing directory on our nsloyal.ca page, searchable by region, searchable by product. We're making improvements to that with adding postal codes, adding some more product categories. As our membership grows, we need to be more amendable to the types of businesses who have come on board for the program. How it's disseminated is through our marketing. So with our events that we are attending throughout the province, last year, as an example, we visited 621 events last year, and we engaged with over 145,000 Nova Scotians. We have our advertising campaign where 7.5 million views have engaged with our advertising campaign. We've had over 200,000 visits to our website, so folks are using that resource. There's certain reasons where someone may elect to not be part of the directory. Maybe they're not doing direct sales, or they're doing sales through a wholesaler, or we have home-based businesses, but it is an opportunity, an extension of the benefits of the Nova Scotia Loyal program.
I recognize MLA Macquarie.
Thank you. So we have 2,000 Nova Scotia businesses registered, diverse businesses like farms, like the Gillis Farm in Marguerite Forks, and mixed businesses like Freya and Thor Gallery and Cafe and Shedicamp. With all those businesses, what's Nova Scotia Loyal doing to support underrepresented businesses?
I recognize Ms. Quinn.
Thank you for the question. We do make a very conscious effort to ensure our underrepresented businesses are included in the program and have opportunities to attend events and market their products. We have active relationships with the Mi'kmaq Rights Association, the Black Business Initiative, the Gaelic Business Initiative. We've actually translated our logo to Gaelic. We're actually working to translate our logo to Mi'kmaq as well. We work with ISANS and the Center for Women in Business, so ensuring that our collective memberships are ensuring that those businesses have opportunities and are supported and get to attend events that they probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do without the support of Nova Scotia Loyal.
I recognize MLA Van Exen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to come back to institutional procurement because over the past few months, I've been so wrapped up in how it's all come from the farm to the manufacturing of it. But I also had an opportunity to watch that panel, and there was a cranberry grower on there, and his marketing story was quite exceptional. I forget his name, I'm so sorry. But he had a really great story. So I also was listening to somebody speak about wastefulness inside hospitals and how they had to manually count food that was coming back to understand how it was traveling through the system. So with that in mind, I'm curious to know what impacts the Nova Scotia Advantage and institutional procurement has on waste. So is there any data that we can hear around whether or not these programs have mitigated the amount of food waste in these institutions?
Deputy Morrissey.
But, we'll have to go back and check with some of the institutions. I'm sure some of the people at NS, Nova Scotia Health, and others are collecting some of that data. We just don't have that accessible to us today.
I recognize MLA Van Exen.
Okay, well, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was Nova Scotia Health specific from that panel. I don't recall who was answering that. I just thought it was really quite an exceptional feat to really revamp the system within that specific institution. So thank you very much for that. Before I pass it on to my colleague, I do want to thank you all very much for taking so much time out of your very busy days to supply so much information. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm sure my colleagues have as well.
Thank you. I recognize MLA McGilvery with 1:12.
Thank you. Just a quick question about the importance of visibility for local businesses, especially in today's geopolitical climate, where folks have access to goods. How is Nova Scotia Loyal promoting local goods for visibility?
Recognize Deputy Morrissey.
I'll talk about a couple, and thank you for the question, and Melissa can add on an additional. I think the most visible one is probably the labeling program, where that individual producers can participate in our program, where they can get up to $3,000 to help facilitate putting labels on their products, whether it's on store shelves or whether it's even in large boxes that they're sending to some of their companies to promote the Nova Scotia Loyal, Nova Scotia products. The second area and most comprehensive is probably within our retail programs and shelf space that we've been able to acquire in retailers, where that we do have our contractors out in retailers with specific Nova Scotia Loyal labels and products and displays, where that they do check on these products a couple of times a month in every store to ensure products are there.
Order. Thank you. That concludes our time for questions. I wonder if any of the witnesses would have have any closing comments. Deputy Morrissey.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess to be short, this is a program that we at the department and I think at the government can be very proud of. The Nova Scotia Loyal program is something that has grown, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, around being a movement and not just a marketing program. And whether they're things, whether it's a Farmer's Daughter country store down in Inverness or the Gillis Farm, the list of companies within each of your districts, and I know they're important to you, they're important to us. We want to ensure that we're reaching out to them. So there is feedback from this group and committee. We're always welcome to listen and learn and see how we can improve the program. It's a huge honor for us to come in and talk about this program. It really, truly is a great program that promotes the benefits and economic benefits and many other things for Nova Scotians. And as much as it's a busy time of year where things are happening very quickly, this is also a very important topic for us to discuss and promote as a province as well. So thank you very much.
Any additional closing comments? And I would like to thank the witnesses very much for their time, as well as for the time and the work they did to prepare for this meeting. We're going to take just a really brief. We're going to take a really brief 2-minute recess just to give you folks a chance to leave. We have a little bit of small amount of committee business to do. So thanks again very much. Hey, guys. Order. Order, please. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. On our agenda here, we have, just for discussion, efficiency. Nova Scotia provided a response. I believe everybody has that. Excuse me. Provided a response to a request for information regarding the number of heat pumps installed since 2022, made at the April meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, next month's meeting is scheduled for June 23rd and is set to hold. And it is an agenda-setting meeting. Now, the past, because of that date, June 23rd, and schools, graduation, and that sort of thing, we typically don't hold that meeting. It's an agenda-setting meeting. So, would we prefer to reschedule or would we prefer to? I recognize MLA LeBlanc.
I would hate to push it to after the summer. So could we, do we sit in the summer? We don't sit in the summer, right? So could we do it the week before, maybe, June 16th?
Yeah, so we have two dates here. June the 11th, Thursday, June the 11th, or Thursday, June the 18th.
11th at the town caucus.
What's that?
The 11th at the town caucus.
Oh, okay. So the 11th is not working because we have an out-of-town caucus. So I think the date we have left here is June 18th. How's that work?
Typically, that's cabinet day.
I don't think it matters to us. I don't know if that puts us in conflict with caucus, so usually we... So what if we, because that's going to be a busy month, I can tell you that, and if it's cabinet, we probably have caucus. So do we want to go in July? How about if, could we agree that the clerk will send out a few dates? And we'll get a consensus there? All right? I don't believe we have any additional, I don't believe any additional business, so I'll call the meeting to adjourn. And we'll leave that with Tamer here and go from there, okay? Thanks, everybody, very much.